me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
I think the role that art and theater and music play is it's truly a creative outlet. It's a way for you to outwardly express, feelings and ideas. And so I think ultimately that's the goal. It's an outlet for them. It's a way to create connections and bonds that might be a little bit different than athletics, but ultimately that same goal exists.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show Leadership Series. And today we're shining a spotlight on the incredible work being done in Parks and Recreation, particularly in the state of Illinois, which truly seems to be leading the charge for America. Join us as we speak with special guest Shannon Elsey, a phenomenal Parks and Recreation Director from Illinois. We'll dive deep into how Illinois' unique special district structure provides dedicated funding, allowing for robust and innovative park and recreation initiatives. Shannon will share insights into the vital role of cultural arts and special events like the Welcome Back to Nature event at the Lakeview Nature Center, which brings communities together and highlights the importance of open spaces. This is the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we don't just cover Parks and Rec, we elevate it, amplify it, and honor it. Stay tuned. All right, this is Craig LeBlanc. Again, we are live with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. We have special guest Shannon, another great Park and Rec director from the state of Illinois, which is just seems to be leading the charge for America. How are you doing today, Shannon?
I'm doing well, thanks for having me, Craig.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. Well, per usual, I'm going to play a little promo for the whole, mission of the Daily Parks and Rec Show to kind of explain to new people listening, and then we'll come back and have a conversation with you.
Sounds good.
Welcome to DPRS Media Co., the first media company built for the people behind the Parks and Rec community. We don't just cover on Parks and Rec, we elevate it, we amplify it, we honor it. At the heart of everything we do is one mission: to serve the public servants, the professionals who design, maintain, and lead the parks that shape our communities. Under the Daily Parks and Rec Show, we produce 6 powerful platforms. Leadership in Parks and Rec, a spotlight on directors, superintendents, and visionaries shaping the future of public spaces. Facility maintenance, where the boots hit the ground, a deep dive into the systems, crews, and craftsmanship that keep our parks clean, safe, and beautiful. Young Professionals Network, shining a light on the next generation of Parks and Rec. Students, interns, and mentors sharing how we build a legacy together. Youth Sports Mastery, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. This series is for coaches, parents, and rec leaders working to make youth sports fun, fair, and meaningful again. The Rec Room, hosted by the passionate leaders of Henry County Parks and Rec. This show brings frontline energy and real-life stories from the field. And the weekly Parks and Rec Post, our official newsletter delivering stories, insights, and community wins every week. We are DPRS Media Co., LLC, a media company with a mission to uplift the professionals who serve every community, every park, every day. All right, so Shannon, let's see, what's going on over in Illinois over there?
Oh gosh, I love that you say Illinois with an S. The S is silent, Craig.
Okay.
Illinois.
Thank you for correcting me, please.
No problem. Well, things are ramping up in the state of Illinois. I know July is Park and Recreation Month through our National Foundation, the National Recreation and Park Association, but also our governor, his name is Jamie Sabbach. He recently made a proclamation dedicating July in Illinois as National Park and Recreation Month. So that's really exciting. It just shows a testament throughout the state to the importance of parks and recreation and what we're doing here in our communities.
Yeah, and I'd really like to kind of do a deeper dive into just the state of Illinois and how it focuses on parks and recreation. It seems like it's just head and heels above all the other states. And maybe it's just that legislative bill that allowed so much more funding to be focused on parks and recreation. Um, but it just seems like every time I talk to somebody from your state, it's just like pro league versus college.
Well,
almost.
I think where we have a leg up is Illinois is one of the very few places that have special districts. So we have districts that are separate taxing bodies dedicated to parks and recreation. So rather than being under a village structure or a city structure where we're competing with funding with the fire department, the police department, and public works, we are our own taxing body. So we have dedicated property tax dollars helping to fund us. So that really helps. And I very much appreciate the way that we're structured because it allows us to do so much more for the communities that we serve.
Right, right. And I know that is a big component. And we're actually working on doing maybe a little special series on how that came about at a legislative level, because it seems like every association does something and actually does a decent amount of work on making sure that the legislative gets, positive legislation gets passed at the state level for parks and recreation. But man, y'all just kind of took it off at the legs back in the 40s and then 70s.
And we also have two wonderful state associations backing us up and helping that happen. The
Yeah.
Illinois Parks and Rec Association, which are doing things on an educational, programmatic level, but then also on the legislative level, we've got the Illinois Association of Park Districts, which is based in Springfield, the capital of Illinois. And they do so much for us as well, day in and day out.
Yeah. And one thing I learned recently, which I'm sure you can speak on this, but in the state of Illinois, it's very common that you can't even develop land without earmarking a piece of that land for park or money associated with it before you're even allowed to build. So before builders can even come into a big open cow pasture and start building homes, they have to say, here's these several acres for parks. And I don't know if that's specific just to Illinois, but that's where I discovered it, and I haven't heard of it being done in other places if they are.
Yeah, and I mean it's truly important. I'll speak a little bit later about our specific community, but there are a lot of communities in the state of Illinois that are very landlocked. So having open space that's available and accessible to all individuals is really important. So we appreciate the state's acknowledgement of that and prioritizing that for all people who live here.
Yeah. All right. So take us a little bit back to your story, how you got into Parks and Rec, and maybe even as a child, describe who you were as a little girl growing up.
Sure.
What was your experience in Parks and Rec early on as a child?
So I was not I feel bad saying this. I feel like I'm one of the few where I was not an active participant in a park district necessarily. But my dad was a Parks and Recreation professor at a state university. So the importance of open space was really kind of drilled in with me. I spent a lot of my childhood visiting our national parks. So again, those play a very similar role to our local park system in the sense that they are for the common good. They're there for everyone to enjoy. So I grew up with that importance of open space in our lives. And really kind of my pathway to Parks and Recreation was a bit of a fluke. Like anybody else, when I went into college, I had this idea of what I wanted to do. And as you start to study and explore, I was originally a journalism major. And I really, really enjoyed that. But University of Illinois, where I went to undergrad, they were in the Final Four. And when I was told by our university paper that I wrote for that I had to potentially skip the festivities as a 19-year-old freshman with our team going to the championship game to report on something, I was like, I can't do that. Midwest basketball takes precedence. So I diverted in college to Parks and Recreation, and obviously having a dad that was his background, I felt really comfortable, and it felt like a really natural fit. Really.
Now, how did he get into that field? Was he a Park and Rec maybe director and then transitioned into education, or did he start off in education?
No, he did not start off in education. He actually entered education a little bit later in life. He was a park and recreation director at a really small community early on in his career. He worked a lot in aquatics and a lot with pools, and transitioned into that educational component a little bit later. But yeah, it's been a part of my life since I can remember, and I'm appreciative for it.
Now, is he still around? Is he still teaching, or is he kind of that's past?
Retired. He is very
Retired.
much retired. My dad is 82 years old. But I will say there are many people specifically in the state of Illinois who had him as a professor, and now even his former students are retiring. So that's where we're at in the evolution. But he definitely still has a hand in it. He'll periodically make his way over to the Illinois Association of Park District offices in Springfield just to say hi to the CEO, Peter Murphy, and not a stranger, I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I bet he gets a lot of thank yous, for how he invested in people and stuff. That's actually going to be your question today.
Okay.
We have a tradition at the end of every show to answer a question from a previous guest and then to leave a question. But yours is about, do you have any of those stories where someone ran up to you saying coach or professor or because I think we all have those in Parks and Recreation, but okay. So tell us about like your first years into Parks and Rec. So you came in your 20s, correct? So right out of college. I started full-time as an art and special events coordinator at the Elk Grove Park District, where I spent the first 10 years of my career. So my early years were spent doing a lot of programmatic work. So I worked with our community special events. I also did cultural arts programming, so theater, music, and then visual arts and hands-on things as well. Now, is that something you pursued, or you just started and they just say, here, do this?
I mean, I had very much an interest in special events. So I think that's what was interesting about the position. But ultimately what ended up being the favorite part of my position doing that was working with a large theater group, a youth group of theater kids that really had an impact on me, and hopefully I had an impact on them. I'm feeling very old as I'm watching them grow and evolve. But yeah, the special events side is what was interesting in the first part, and then my love for Parks and Rec grew from there.
How many years did you do that role?
Yeah, so the role itself expanded over time, but I was there in a similar capacity for 10 years.
All right, so I don't think I've ever had anybody talk about the, theater, quote unquote, theater kids as a part of Parks and Rec. So why don't you start on peeling back the onion, open up the door for what that
now you're going to have a whole section on cultural arts instead of athletic. I know. I think a lot of times when people think of Parks and Rec, they think of the athletics component, the aquatic component. But certainly I think cultural arts has its place in that as well. So I did not have a theater background. I mean, I grew up participating in band and doing choir. I will definitely say I'm a self-proclaimed band nerd in that way. But theater in and of itself was not my background. So what I did is I worked with professionals in the area that were hired to be directors and choreographers and music directors to put together these full-scale productions for youth in the community, anywhere from ages of 5 to 14 typically. So what I learned from that, I mean, I liken it much to what it would be like to be on a sports team. You create this really unique bond with a group of people. You're working towards a common goal. Maybe rather than winning a championship, you're looking forward to putting on this production, something you can really be proud of. And I definitely had those mom moments when the productions were going and the kids were getting a standing ovation, where those tears well up in your eyes and you feel really proud of everything that they've accomplished and you've helped them accomplish along the way.
Yeah. And so, not to minimize everything that happens in sports, we have a whole show dedicated to youth sports and stuff. It's amazing. But it's when you think about what it takes to get some kids on a field and a ball versus putting together performing arts, theater, it's the community can kind of self-organize maybe a sport, but it's probably exponentially harder to go self-organize an art museum or a theater or that. So,
well, I think with both to make them successful. You have to have that community buy-in, and we had such a strong network of parent volunteers who believed in their kids, who believed in the community, and they were really the fuel behind making that go and making it something really special.
Yeah. And really, this is for those, and this is kind of near and dear to my heart, because we raise a lot of our kids in the city of New Orleans that is just has artistic just coming out the sidewalk. And they were all involved in the youth orchestra and played piano and cello and painting, and they all had their professors that helped them and stuff. And I can think of maybe half of my kids didn't have an athletic bone in their body. So they were
I was
never,
also one of those kids, Craig.
yeah. But man, they could talk about, I can paint stick figures, and they're just painting, gorgeous things.
Yeah.
And maybe speak about how important that is, or speak of it as if you were a coach talking about the importance of youth sports, but speak out of it from that artistic theater side that I don't think really gets a lot of airtime in the industry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the role that art and theater and music play is it's truly a creative outlet. It's a way for you to outwardly express, feelings and ideas, and the goal is to make it thought-provoking. The goal is to move people. If you've ever seen a live production of Hamilton, that's one I think a lot of people can relate to. You should feel something when you're experiencing that. And so I think ultimately that's the goal. It's an outlet for them. It's a way to create connections and bonds that might be a little bit different than athletics, but ultimately that same goal exists.
Mm. And so what are the, I guess, similar components, just as there are coaches and referees and uniforms in sports, what are the art versions of that as we're trying to bring people into this part of Parks and Rec?
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I imagine in a different capacity, but the same level of dedication is required. The kids that were working with multiple hours a week, we're talking 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a week. They were dedicated to doing rehearsals, which, although maybe not as physically as intensive, they are just as mentally intensive, require that same level of focus, requires memorization. Obviously, when you're pulling music and choreography, you're doing multiple things at the same time. And in order to be successful, aside from a strong group of volunteers kind of moving that program along, you've also got individuals who specialize in this. So those who are hired to direct and music direct and choreograph. I actually just saw on social media that one of my former theater kids, she just graduated high school. She started very, very young. So it's going to make me feel like I'm young, but I'm not. She just got a tattoo upon graduation of high school from a quote that her high school theater teacher used to say. So clearly there is a lasting impact. The same messaging as it relates to perseverance and trying something new and putting yourself out there. All of that still exists in those creative outlets and creative worlds.
Yeah. And, shout out to a close friend of mine, Dr. Jean Montez. He was the director of the New Orleans Youth Orchestra, which all of my kids participated in. And it was just, if you're looking for your child to have a college scholarship, they are desperate to have any child pick up one of many instruments. And they just, a lot of these instruments are dying. And really it's just a matter of commitment into learning how to play this one instrument. And it's probably a much simpler path that they can play forever versus trying to beat out or become a D1 athlete in a sport that's super competitive.
We all wish we could be, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now anything to say on special events? Because I know that kind of ties in. Just maybe talk a little bit about the animal of special events in Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, I mean, Parks and Recreation as a whole, I think we're known for doing a lot of special events. My favorite special events that we do in Parks and Recreation are those that really serve the common good. So not necessarily, although these are very cool, but not necessarily events like meeting Santa or anything that's fee-based. I love the ones that are free and open to the community. For me, it's a way for the community to engage with your organization in a way that they may not otherwise. Speaking specifically to the community that I serve right now in the Oakbrook Terrace Park District, not only do we serve a section of Oakbrook Terrace proper, but we also serve a large unincorporated section of DuPage County, which is the county in which we're located. And many of those individuals would not interface with the park district without those special events. They see that something's going on in our park space, in our open space, and they come on over, and now we're able to engage and interface. We're able to build connections, which is one of my favorite parts of it, create shared experiences and build connections. And I think that's what's so cool about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really see special events as the place where you meet the people that attend nothing else. And you can have those that aha moment. I had no idea y'all do all this other stuff.
Right.
In Parks and Rec.
Which shocking. I mean, it happens all the time. How do you not know? How do you not know? But
Right.
it happens quite often.
Right. Yeah, because it really is the biggest event where you can get grandma out, you can get people that are not even in the city that are seeing your city for the first time at your very unique special event. Because, we think of special events as like the 4th of July thing, the Christmas, whatever. But I would say buried in every special event program of a city, there's typically one that's so unique to that one city that no other city does. It seems like there's always one a year like that. Do y'all have one, or is there one in memory similar to that?
I mean,
these unique events?
There's lots that I like. I would say perhaps one that would be unique to us. The Oakbrook Terrace Park District, we're a really small organization. We only have 3 facilities, but one facility that we do have that's unique to us is the Lakeview Nature Center. So we do an event every year called Welcome Back to Nature. That event itself was born out of COVID. So when everyone had, at least in the state of Illinois, we had these stay-at-home orders that, you weren't going out, you weren't engaging. This was the perfect segue for people to get back into our park, to engage with the animal ambassadors that we have at the Nature Center, as well as other community organizations that we host through this event. And we were able to do so in a socially safe space and outdoors. And that event has definitely evolved over time. We just hosted at the beginning of June again. So it's kind of our unofficial summer kickoff, I should say. And in addition to highlighting everything that the Nature Center has to offer, we do work with a number of community partners, everyone from beekeepers that help produce honey locally, to a woman who has chickens within her home and talks about how you could potentially be a chicken owner and have eggs and that sort of thing. So just lots of different aspects that tie in nature. And of course, the setting is in one of our beautiful parks, Terrace View Park. I always call it just this natural oasis. It is definitely within for lack of a better term, a concrete jungle. It's just behind the intersection of 2 really big roads across from Oakbrook Mall. With anyone in the Chicagoland area will be familiar with Oakbrook Mall. And then you've got this beautiful natural space with old growth trees and a 1.5 acre pond. So we're able to engage people in this space, which is really, really great.
Yeah. Shout out to all my residential chicken owners.
Are you a chicken owner, Craig?
Well, I did. I'm currently not, but probably for about 15 years. And when I say we were in the middle of a subdivision, like nothing country about it. But these chickens would eat the bugs and our scraps, and they would just lay more eggs than we could ever eat. And we would buy off our neighbors with eggs and stuff. But it was so cool to just produce your own food. Cool. Okay, so I wanted to get into because you're a recent graduate of Jamie's class. For those of y'all who don't know, Jamie Sabbach's work is amazing, and you recently attended and did your course with her. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you sought that and why that's important?
Yeah. So Jamie Sabbach, she owns a consulting company called 110%. And she has a 3-day financial sustainability course that I participated in May. I'll give Jamie a plug here. She's coming out with part 2 of that financial sustainability course, which is an expansion. But really why I wanted to do this as a relatively new executive director. I've been in my current role for about 2.5 years. I just want to make sure that I have a pulse on exactly everything I should as it relates to finances and how to be a sustainable organization. And so I went to this seminar of hers, and I thought it was the most impactful thing I've been to in many, many years. I mean, I won't bury the lead or spoil anyone actually participating, but I would say some of the points that hit home with me is Jamie really challenged all of the participants at this financial sustainability seminar to think about, as park and recreation agencies, not only what programs we're offering and do they make sense, but also what is our approach to infrastructure and to parks. And I don't think this is unique to parks and recreation. I think generally, as citizens of the United States, we've always seen bigger is better. Like, let's build, let's grow. More is better. But essentially, the point that Jamie was hitting home is more is not always better. You know, we build, but we don't think about the long term beyond the build. What does sustaining a new open space look like? What does sustaining a new state-of-the-art facility look like? One of the things that she said, which made me laugh, she said, I wish we had ribbon cuttings for a new roof in the same way that we have ribbon cuttings for a new playground or a new state-of-the-art facility. Right. So maybe I'll start doing that. Maybe we'll start that here at the Oakbrook Terrace Park District. But I thought that was a really interesting perspective. Like, let's take care of what we have first and foremost, before we continue to expand. So I think that's great. And looking at our agency specifically, we're a small agency, but we've spent a lot of money in the last 2.5 years really doing exactly what Jamie says we need to be doing, which is reinvesting in our public spaces and reinvesting in our open spaces. And so that's been a priority of ours and something that we'll continue to do.
Yeah, and I think the general message there is that in your personal life, if you say yes to the big family vacation and say yes to the swimming pool being put in and yes to new cars, and then at some point you're like, oh, we don't have enough money to pay our electric bill. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
In Parks and Rec.
100%. I know it's so funny to constantly look back on things personally, but I do think that's a really realistic way to frame things. If you wouldn't be willing to do that in your personal life, or, you know, or you wouldn't expand beyond your means, why would you do it here with taxpayer dollars?
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. And then two, you know, something else that she talked about is considering as public agencies, how much of what we're offering is for the common good. So the everyday person, the we and us instead of the individual, versus this really exclusive use. You know, specifically when looking at sports or aquatics, a lot of what we offer is more exclusive. It's for these subgroups, kind of these niche groups, and we're getting away from maybe the original intent of some of these agencies and organizations. And what's the best way that we can balance that, you know, to fulfill the needs of everyone within our community.
Yeah, and one of the hard things is these kind of special groups, you could say, come with a lot of energy and even partial funding, but then you're in charge of maintaining this thing for 20 years, and sometimes it doesn't come with maintenance budget attached to it. And so it's very hard to say no to a very vocal, influential group that has money. But, you know, you have to look at the long-term implications that this town's probably not going out of business anytime soon. So you got to think in 100-year blocks.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's an important point. I know they always say, like, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I think you have to be strong and stand behind the principles of what's going to make your organization and the spaces that you manage and you serve sustainable over time.
Yeah. And then maybe if you can, you know, if they are a ball of fire and they really want to do it, say, well, here's the actual real cost of what you're suggesting, and here's the 50-year cost of what you're suggesting. So you're almost there. You've almost raised enough money, but if you double it, then it's a yes.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and Jamie would be able to cite some specific case studies that she's done or included in her work that really hones in on what you're talking about, some of those vocal groups and how you work to combat that for the betterment of the agency and for the betterment of the community.
Now, you said that was a 3-day course. Is that at the same location? Does she kind of rotate it? And
Yeah,
can we
so
find out?
she does those throughout the country. So we are lucky enough, like you had mentioned earlier, the state of Illinois, we've got such great, the Illinois Association of Park Districts and the Illinois Park and Recreation Association, these great organizations working on behalf of the education of the professionals within our community. So we're lucky enough just to be sent links and say, hey, sign up for this. But Jamie does. It's not just the state of Illinois. She's based out of Colorado, and she travels all throughout the country with 110%. So definitely keep an eye out on her website, 110%.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she'll be presenting in an area near you, or give her a call, and I'm sure she could set something up.
Yeah, we've been, I think since the beginning, we were trying to create a show that kind of talks about different segments and topics of Parks and Rec. And so I've always wanted to create like a Financials Friday show that's all things finance, because it's such an avoided topic. It's like we don't celebrate spreadsheets enough.
No, I know. I have a husband who's an accountant, so I don't celebrate.
Oh, wow. Well, look, we actually, shout out to Brian Dixon. We had a little funny joke that we should do an episode on spouses of Parks and Rec. So maybe we'll have him on here.
They probably have just as many stories as the professionals themselves. Yes.
Right. What's it like to be married to someone in Parks and Rec?
I know specifically for my husband, early in my career, we were constantly looking for people to wear the mascot costumes at the Elk Grove Park District, and just by default, my poor husband ended up being the one inside those costumes. But it makes for a great party story. So
that's right.
He's got that going for him.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break to promote our Thursday show. That's Aaron Locks is the host there. He's been a master of youth sports, dedicated 40 years of his life to coaching athletics. And so we have a show every Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, on that topic. And he brings some really good coaches and athletic directors. And so if that's a topic that's interesting to you, a lot of good stuff there. So we'll play this, and then we'll come right back and talk about mentorship, because I know this is a huge topic for Shannon, and we've just got a ton of stuff to say on that. So we'll be right back.
At DPRS Media Co., we don't just create content, we elevate community through storytelling. Now, we're proud to introduce the newest addition to the family. Welcome to Youth Sports Mastery, the podcast where champions are shaped, not just on the field, but in life. Hosted by National Academy of Athletics founder Aaron Locks. Youth Sports Mastery dives deep into how youth sports can empower kids, strengthen communities, and build leaders. From coaching culture to recreation strategy, and from player development to parent impact, every episode brings game-ready insight from the people making it happen. Youth Sports Mastery goes live every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Only on the Daily Parks and Rec Show, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics and powered by DPRS Media Co. This is where purpose meets play.
All right. So why don't we just start off by defining, in your mind, what is mentorship? That's just a strict definition.
Oh, gosh.
What is mentorship?
Not a dictionary, Craig. All right, I'll do my best. To me, mentorship is someone taking the time to invest in another person and helping them grow, become their best self, to challenge them. And I think mentorship is a lifelong journey. It's we'll talk a little bit about a program I participated in, but I don't think mentorship has a strict beginning, and I don't think it has a strict end. And oftentimes it's something that happens very organically outside of a formalized program. So I hope that helps.
No, that is perfect.
Informal.
Yes. Spoken like someone who has dedicated their life to this in some capacity. So maybe talk about who were some of those early mentors? How did they mentor you? What were you struggling with? And how did they kind of maybe open some doors or open your mind a little in those
Yeah.
early?
I mean, I would say some of my early mentors would definitely be some of my very first supervisors. So when I was in college at the University of Illinois, I worked part-time for the Urbana Park District. And at the time, a gentleman by the name of Dan Gibble, he has since retired, but he was their superintendent of recreation. And he hired me not only to work as a special events intern over the summer, but also to help spearhead the Park District's 100th anniversary celebration. Which retrospectively, I don't know why anyone entrusted me to do that at age 20, but with his careful watch and support, I'll put it that way. And I think for me, what stands out from a mentorship perspective, he constantly, in addition to showing me how to do things and leading the way and exercising patience, which is a really important part of mentorship, he constantly would challenge me. When we had our actual 100th anniversary celebration, it was this big 7-day event. At the time, we were spending $200,000, which felt like a lot of money in 2007, back when this was taking place. And, there was an instance where the weather wasn't cooperating and a performer didn't want to go on. And so I said to him, Dan, will you go talk to them? And he was like, no, but you can. You're capable. You can do it. So he coached me through how to have a difficult conversation. And I feel like having those difficult, challenging moments are what help you grow as a person and as a professional. So certainly he was impactful in that way.
Yeah. I love how you framed it, that I can't believe they let me, be in charge of this.
I still can't.
Yes.
Get to this.
This reminds me, I've taught all of my kids how to drive, and in our state in Louisiana, you can drive at like 16. But I feel like in Parks and Rec, we're like the farmer that's allowing his 10-year-old to drive the tractor.
At times, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And so maybe talk about how important it is, or maybe how different it is, because in Parks and Rec, you get a hold of big events that cost money, that have full-on adults 30 years older than you that are helping put on this event at a very young age. You're just given the opportunity to stretch your leadership legs and form yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think what is so great about the field of Parks and Rec holistically is just like the investment of other professionals and their willingness to help you. I don't think anyone is here to see anybody else fail. We're here to lift each other up and to help each other grow. And I think the only reason I was successful in that role at that time was from the leadership of those around me, the belief in those around me, and the support of, fixing my mistakes or helping me along the way. I think all of that's so important, but our field definitely embodies that.
So now at what point moving forward did you want to become a mentor yourself, or maybe what were some of those early days of you kind of giving back and mentoring people, similar to how you were mentored?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk a little bit about the Illinois Park and Recreation Association. They have a formal mentorship program called ProConnect. And it was something that the first 10 years of my career I so desperately wanted to be a part of, but just due to the nature of my position and the timing of when their events were taking place, I never had the opportunity. So for me at that time, I think mentorship was happening more just in my, my bubble at work, and more formally, but I was able in 2018 to finally be a part of that program. And actually, I started as a mentee rather than a mentor, because I think a lot of times we maybe don't give ourselves enough credit for the experience we have and the impact that we can have. We're always thinking there's somebody that knows more than me, there's somebody that's better than me. And so even that long ago, back in 2018, I was still thinking like, I'm not in a position to mentor anybody else. I still need honed and crafted, which is true to this day.
Yeah. Well, some of the people I've interviewed have been in this industry for 40 years, and they were lifetime learners and learning to the end. And even after retirement, they're still learning.
Yes.
It's just such a broad skill set that could be developed. I don't think you ever get to the end of it in Parks and Rec.
No, absolutely.
So maybe talk a little bit of what is that? So the ProConnect program, how do you know when that started and how old is that?
Oh, that's a good question. And you're going to stump me with that. I don't know when that started. I
Yeah.
would say maybe early 2010s, roughly.
Mhm.
It's been around for a while. It was established and created by the former executive director by the Illinois Association
Mhm.
of, the Illinois Park and Rec Association. And it's something that has been award winning for its format. But essentially, what
Mhm.
the ProConnect program does is it takes professionals in the field of park and recreation through an application process and creates what they call triads. So within these triads, we've got someone in the field who is willing to mentor others who are looking to be mentored. And then we also have two mentees. So you've got these three people working in tandem to meet and grow as professionals. So the way that ProConnect is set up, you start that mentorship journey in a more formal capacity. So ProConnect will create actual events for these mentor-mentee triads to participate in. So they'll kick off with a team building event. They do an event focused on service. So you're serving together and really going through the trenches. They've got an event focused on education, and then something where it culminates. And I think what ProConnect pushes home is that this formal program that we've created should just be the start of your journey. Ideally, if you're clicking as a triad, or maybe only two people within that triad are clicking, your relationship should last long beyond the handful of months that this program is taking
Mm.
place.
And so as a mentee, is this something that takes about a year? Can you participate in it longer? How's that work?
Yeah, the program itself, the timeline of the program has evolved over the years. In its current
Mhm.
iteration, it's roughly a 4 to 5 month program. So when you think about mentorship being a lifelong journey, it's really short, right? It's this
Mhm.
really short beginning. But I think the goal is for it to be intentional and for it to be a little bit intensive right at the beginning, to build a strong foundation to keep those relationships going beyond the life of the program.
Mm. And then obviously as a mentor, you can just, keep it going, I guess, in perpetuity if you want to stay involved in the program, right?
100%, 100%. I first participated in the program in 2018 and 2019 and felt so passionate about my experience as a mentee and felt like it was so beneficial that I joined the Board of Regents and served in that capacity until last year. And I watched lots of really amazing mentorship relationships blossom out of that. And I would say this is a fringe benefit, but it's also led people to make big strides in their careers. I think,
Mhm.
sometimes we downplay the role of those personal and professional connections when looking for a job, but that's really helped people grow and succeed as professionals, by having those other
Mhm.
connections and relationships.
Oh yeah, definitely. Shout out to Mr. Paul Burns. He was an early business mentor of mine. He always said, "Life is a contact sport, Craig. You
Yeah,
need to have a strong network."
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And so maybe talk about, you know, on this network, where's and I know this ties a lot into the state association because you have such a strong state association, and of all the benefits that you get from going, time and time again, we say it's the people you meet there, which
Yeah.
it's not like a classroom setting built on meeting people. You just are immersed in the community for those couple of days. But maybe we can start talking a little bit about the association itself, the work it does, and we can start by just saying about how it helps you to connect with professionals in the network.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ProConnect is just one example that our state association offers. We have so many committees and subcommittees made up of different areas of professionals. We've got an administration and finance committee, we've got a conservation committee, we've got recreation programming. So the ability to kind of connect with professionals that are in the same specialized area that you are. We also have a massive state conference. I won't say it 100% rivals the National Recreation and Park Association conference, but it's
Mhm.
it's close. It's 3 days. It's in Chicago, or maybe even four, in Chicago, Illinois. It's very well attended. In addition to they do a skills development webinar series, again bringing professionals in throughout. not only the state of Illinois, but across the nation. And in all of these kind of platforms and events that they do, the goal is to connect with one another, whether it's, to expand your network for job opportunities or simply having someone to be able to call when you've got a question or a challenging situation. Yeah, I think they really help professionals to foster that within the field.
Now, have you been going to this since the beginning, pretty much your whole career?
Well, I've been a member of the Illinois Park and Recreation Association since the beginning of my career. And I would say everyone, for the most part, in the field is, and if they haven't, then they're missing out. Sign up right away.
Yes.
And then, been a part of lots of different programs throughout over time, depending as my schedule allows.
And so what was it like those first few years, or even the first year when you are experiencing the association full blown for the first time, walking into this?
Yeah, I think at times it can feel intimidating. Our state conference has thousands of people, similar to that national conference. And so you feel kind of overwhelmed. But in the same vein, I feel like there's so much passion and energy emanating from people, and so many people to bounce ideas off of. And like I said earlier, we've just got a really, really welcoming, open field. Speaking specifically to my role here at the Oakbrook Terrace Park District as executive director, I did not realize prior to being executive director just how many little fires I would be putting out daily. And I think within the first month of being here, one night we had a gas leak in one of our buildings. We had to evacuate while we had a big rental group here. So the next morning when I came to work, I was feeling very tired and run down and just overwhelmed. And by happenstance, another executive director that I had met in the field, he just happened to stop by just to check on me and see how things were going. The timing could not have been more perfect because I needed a pick-me-up. He was like, "You think this is bad? You should have seen my first month." So it makes you feel like you've got a little bit of solidarity. But I appreciate the fact, the professionals in the field, that we're looking out for one another and lifting each other up.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, before the end of the show, I want to talk more about, Oakbrook, and because it's a smaller town and what that's like. But maybe before we get off the association, so if you're mentoring, coaching someone first time, what kind of advice would you give them to say, here's how to have a great year one experience at your state association?
Yeah, I think as it relates to mentorship, it's being your authentic self, right? And like in a mentorship relationship, nobody wants anything super buttoned up and super formal. I think people want to feel comfortable, be able to have an open dialogue. And I think that carries beyond mentorship or beyond the ProConnect program in the state association itself. Everyone's open to having you give them a quick call them up, shoot them an email. People are very responsive to that. So be your authentic self. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. All of that will serve well.
Yes, I love that message. Okay, so 7,500 people, 9 full-time employees. Nearly every fire is yours to deal with.
Or one of my staffs. Yeah, for sure.
So what's it like to manage just a small community inside?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, our community is really small. We serve Oakbrook Terrace proper, which is just under 3,000 people, this unincorporated section of DuPage County, another 7,500. So collectively around 10,000 people, 9 full-time staff, maybe 20 to 25 part-time and seasonal staff, depending on the time of year. And you'd be amazed how much happens with a small staff and a small community. I think what makes our organization so successful, I feel like we have a really good culture here at our organization, a very hands-on team that is willing to step in. I always say it takes a very special person, a specific type of person, to work for a small organization. As an executive director in a small organization, things that I've done aside from, leading our board meetings and attending city council meetings and maybe being a part of a legislative event, I am also periodically working our aftercare program if the need absolutely arises. I know how to put a registration into our system. I have worked a rental. Hopefully those are not my day-to-day activities, but I do feel like you have to know how to do it all. And there's a lot of merit in being able to do so. And it also keeps you kind of grounded to the root of why you were here. I think a lot of times when people are elevated in their career, especially in a large organization, you can feel very detached from your community and what's going on the ground. And I am very much immersed in it here. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's just a strong leadership trait to cultivate in your life. If to be that kind of servant leader, not to have any task in your department that's you're too good for,
Sure.
or because especially in the small cities, you're going to be doing things that might be well outside your job description.
Oh yes. There is no job description large enough. Let me put it that way, or comprehensive enough. Yeah.
Right. And then even smaller towns. I remember in my early days of working with Parks and Rec, I pull up to work with the director, and she's cutting the grass.
Oh, geez. Okay, that's something I haven't done. I have painted an office though. For what?
Right.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
like, okay, so anything as far as what do special events look like? What are some maybe if you had to give a pitch for small town governance, that's going to be different, things you're going to see that the other towns just aren't going to experience if you're preparing someone to manage,
Yeah.
say, under 10,000 people
Yeah.
department.
I mean, I would say, the key to being successful within a small organization is multifold. Number one, you've got to have a really strong team that has a strong commitment, not just to the organization, but the community at large. I feel so invested in every community that I've served, and I feel like I get to know the families. I think that's super important. I think we're also built on having really strong community partnerships. As a separate taxing body and separate entity, we still do have a very strong relationship with our city, the city of Oakbrook Terrace, and there's lots of things that we could not successfully do without their support. Along those same lines, we have a special recreation association that specifically helps to support us and ensuring accessibility for all participants, regardless of their ability. I think that's really integral with our library, with our athletic associations. I think those strong community partnerships really go a long way. That team focus and those community partnerships and just caring about what you do makes it successful.
Now, you had mentioned a couple of times about you have a strong culture. Was it not that way earlier, or where did that culture come from, and how did you kind of learn to build that strong culture?
Sure. I mean, culture is always evolving, right? I wouldn't have stayed with the organization for 7.5 years if I didn't feel like it was a good culture to begin with. I think, it's definitely evolved over time, and we've been able to attract some professionals in the field who may not have looked at us previously. So for example, our superintendent of recreation, her background is in special recreation and therapeutic recreation. So that is not in the world of Parks and Recreation necessarily kind of your first thought when hiring, like this person doesn't have that very direct experience, but she brings just an entirely new perspective. So I think we're open to people who have a different background and a different perspective and what they can do to help to make us a better organization. If we all thought the same and had all the same experience and background, how progressive would that be? So I think that goes a long way, and people just, again, caring about the community and what they do.
Okay, so this is one thing I ask of a lot of our guests is, imagine you're in front of a classroom of undecided college kids, not knowing, haven't picked a career path. What testimony, what encouragement would you give them, as to choose Parks and Recreation as a career path?
I mean, if I were to follow my dad's advice, he'd say, "Don't do it." No,
Run.
he's just joking, but it is definitely, I would say Parks and Recreation, and anyone who's in the field knows this, right? Like it's a commitment and it's a lifestyle. It is not your, you open your computer at 9:00, you close it down at 5:00. It's integrated into your life. But what I would say as a hopefully pitch and selling point for the field is if you're looking to make a difference, if you're looking to bring equity and access to your community, if you're looking, to improve the betterment of the youth in your community to help build the leaders of tomorrow, you can do that here, and you can do it in a variety of ways. How many people get to look out at a beautiful park outside of their office, or get to take a stroll, or one of our park staff who will periodically take his lunch break and go fishing in the pond where the maintenance garage is located. There's not many places that you can do that. So I think that's really cool. And as I've grown and had kids, I think it's also been, it's a family-centric career. My kids are involved in our summer camp programs. They will be, we're walking in the city's 4th of July parade on Friday. They will be there to do that. So I think it's a very family-friendly place to be as well. The field is great for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a field where you can start giving back on day one. Don't have to wait till retirement to give back.
Yeah.
Every day you're doing it.
You can feel good about what you do. It's not, it's not corporate. It's not for the man. You're hopefully, you're giving back to the people.
Yeah. Well, this actually ties in great to the question that was left to you by Dante Watson over in Santa Rosa, California. Had a great interview with him before the show. But his question was, tell us a story about how someone much later in life came back to you and thanked you for what you did for them, that you might not have even noticed the impact you had on their life, but here they are in front of you saying, you had a massive impact on my life.
That's a good one.
I know, when he asked it, I was like, I'm gonna get some mileage on this question.
Yeah, absolutely. You can reuse this one again and again.
Yeah.
Gosh, you know what? I probably, and I feel like I could almost say more than one of them. I'm going to reference back to those early theater kids that I was talking about. My very first year in Parks and Recreation, I helped with the show. We did Suzical Jr., and there was a little girl. She is a full-blown adult now, Paige, who was in the show. And this was my first experience working with her. And so I didn't know her very well. She definitely, some days were good, some days were not good. And come to find out at the end of the show, her mom contacted me, and she had just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So she was having all these blood sugar spikes, which was a result of her having a harder experience during the show. But she came back again and again, and participated year over year. She ultimately left our program and went into teaching. And this is a family that, to this day, I first worked with her 17 years ago. The family sends a Christmas card to my home and personal address. I just feel like kind of the lasting impact of us working together, not just with Paige, but her on her journey and her diagnosis, and that relationship with the family has just evolved into kind of a lifelong friendship and, evolution in her life to who she is today. Yeah.
And that really is some of the biggest whys that I hear of why people
100%.
Stay in this industry, because it's not an easy end. Like, don't come to Parks and Rec if you're looking for a cush job.
No, you were right about that. You were very right about that.
Very demanding, and you might not have a nights and weekends, but if you want to make an impact in people's life, I don't know a better industry.
Yes, 100%.
All right. So what question would you like to leave for our next victim?
And I'm doing this sight unseen without knowing the poor victim.
Well, I might be able to find them if I can pull up my calendar. Hold on, I can tell you
okay. I don't know that I could come up with another question, even if.
It is Karen O'Donnell.
Okay.
And so what?
Karen, all right. I guess my question, similar to Dante's, but perhaps a little bit different, is either what is your legacy, or what do you hope your legacy to be one day?
What is your legacy? Y'all ask some deep questions. I'm glad I'm not on the receiving end of some of these questions.
Right. It's not what are you having for dinner tomorrow. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. What's your
Yeah,
favorite
what's your
color?
legacy? And for what it's worth, I guess the reason I ask that question is that's what I'm continuously thinking about. Like, we're hopefully, I mean, we are obviously here for the day to day, but hopefully we're not just here for the day to day. We're here for a longer impact. You know, what are future generations going to be benefiting from the work that you've done? What does that look like to you?
And where does that legacy focus come from in your life? Is that you've always been this way, or is it something you developed over years?
I don't know. You know, I think about my dad a lot. I'm sure he's going to love that I keep bringing up his age. The
Yeah.
fact that he's 82 years old. I mean, he's serving in a leadership position with the Legion. He served as a village trustee for 27 years, to the point where they ended up naming a park after him. So he gets a big park sign that he makes all his grandkids take pictures by. That's just what I think about as someone who kind of came from nothing and continues at this age to push himself and continue to make a difference, even when you deserve a break not to have to make a difference every day. So I think that's perhaps where that comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great dad to have.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's really been a pleasure, especially speaking all about mentorship. And I think that's just a topic that this industry does well. And,
Yeah.
and then thank you for speaking up for all those theater kids and stuff. I need to have more shows on that side of it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Craig. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun, easy to talk to.
Yeah, you did a great job. Thank you
All
so much.
right. Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. All right, another great episode. Shannon's doing such a fantastic job over there. Great episode on just mentorship, how important that is in your life, not just as as a mentee, but then also to give back to your community. And Illinois does that really well with their program called ProConnect. And I need to find out if there's other versions of that going on throughout the country, and maybe highlight those mentorship programs a little bit more. That might be a good segment for our Friday show on the Young Professionals Network. That's every Friday, 12 noon Eastern. But to maybe highlight what they do at the ProConnect program with the State of Illinois Association over there. And then if there's any others that we can highlight, I think that would make for good content. But then also, you know, how she's in a small town, got to be able to do everything. You know, you're not too good for anything, and then creating good culture and maintaining that culture in your department is so important. So I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Shannon. Appreciate the work you're doing. And thank you for giving us another great episode and another great example of a leader in Parks and Rec, and why you kids should dedicate your life to such an amazing industry that continues to give back. Between her and Dante, man, this has just been a killer day. So thank you all so much for continuing to support the work we're doing here on the Daily Parks and Rec show. And we got a lot of new stuff cooking up. We do have our newsletter. I think this is our 4th week. It's a weekly newsletter, comes out every Sunday. We're still working on some of the technology side, so it's not in wide distribution just yet. I think we started out with MailChimp, and then we moved to Beehive, and now we're like considering creating an app out of the whole show and everything. So if you are one of the early recipients of our newsletter, it's an honor because there's not a lot going out right now. But our team is doing a great job putting that together. So be on the lookout for our newsletter coming out. And if you want access to it now, just hit me up on LinkedIn and we'll throw you on the list. We really just haven't started mass pushing this thing out till we get maybe about 8 weeks under our belt. But we would love to have anyone that wants early access, if not for anything, the purpose of helping us to dial it in and making sure it's serving the community well, and that we're getting everything put together just right, so that when we do, you know, blast this thing out, we've got a lot of good feedback from the industry itself. And shout out to all those that have already said, sign me up, I want to help. Also, if you've written any articles that you're proud of and you feel like serves the industry well and you want us to help lift that up, highlight it, again, hit me or Sherry up on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to put you either in front of the camera or as a written article in our newsletter. So be looking for that. And thank you for all the subscribers and likers and sharers of everything we're doing. No one would know about what we're doing if it wasn't for y'all. So I really appreciate that. Really goes a long way to help, get the message of Parks and Rec and the stories like we saw with Shannon and Dante today out in the community, so that we can kind of get the word out of what is Parks and Rec to everyone in America and make this just a super, super powerful industry and do our part. So thank y'all again. Thank y'all for all the love and support. Love you guys. Y'all have an awesome day, and we'll see y'all here again tomorrow. Thanks. Bye. Welcome to DPRS Media Co., the first media company built for the people behind the Parks and Rec community. We don't just cover on Parks and Rec, we elevate it, we amplify it, we honor it. At the heart of everything we do is one mission: to serve the public servants, the professionals who design, maintain, and lead the parks that shape our communities. Under the daily Parks and Rec show, we produce 6 powerful platforms. Leadership in Parks and Rec, a spotlight on directors, superintendents, and visionaries shaping the future of public spaces. Facility maintenance, where the boots hit the ground, a deep dive into the systems, crews, and craftsmanship that keep our parks clean, safe, and beautiful. Young Professionals Network, shining a light on the next generation of Parks and Rec. Students, interns, and mentors sharing how we build a legacy together. Youth Sports Mastery, sponsored by National Academy of Athletics. This series is for coaches, parents, and rec leaders working to make youth sports fun, fair, and meaningful again. The Rec Room, hosted by the passionate leaders of Henry County Parks and Rec. This show brings frontline energy and real-life stories from the field. And the weekly Parks and Rec Post, our official newsletter delivering stories, insights, and community wins every week. We are DPRS Media Co., LLC, a media company with a mission to uplift the professionals who serve every community, every park, every day.